Welcome to Thriving Talks with Anthony. Today we're going to have an insightful conversation. For those that are new to the channel, we make mental conversations and content that's going to be beneficial to your personal development in addition to your well-being, right? But in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about navigating grief, understanding and coping with loss. This video aims to, offer emotional support and practical strategies for individuals navigating grief. It aims to normalize the grieving process and explore different ways grief manifests and provide tools for fostering healing, self-compassion, and resilience through the time of grief and loss, right? I want to personalize this to myself because I'm undergoing this with my family internally, right? Specifically with my grandmother, right? I was able to see this in different dynamics with other, friends, family, different other people, you know what I mean? But it hits home when it's people that you love, right? But I definitely want us to be able to normalize the grieving process because it is a process of life. The same way we're able to receive a blessing and celebrate a new birth, into the family, into the world, etc. We got to be able to, even though it's a tough, difficult process, we got to be able to accept, the grieving process as someone is leaving the world, right? My main thing that I realize in regards to the power of positivity is that, wherever we allow our mind to rest, whether it's negative in a positive spacing, we're going to be able to get the outcomes regarding where we put that, right? So I'm pushing for the power of positivity. I'm pushing for us to, really reflect on those moments that we were enjoying, whatever it was with the individual that is going through that transition of, let's just say, for instance, the death process. But just like I said, focus on those moments, focus on the moments, for instance, for my grandmother, the moments of, being in her company, being present, talking about whatever, talking about my school day, talking about a crush, talking about, accomplishment, and her, cooking, whatever it may be, and providing that support, Just think about those memories, positive memories, right? And letting that kind of, marinate within the troubles that we're experiencing. I think that's something that I'm utilizing as a strategy, but we're going to dive more into, the specifics. So if you're going to be able to hold tight, you're going to be able to get more benefits from this video, right? So let's start off with segment number 1 in regards to introduction to grief and loss. So grief is deeply personally, and personalized to an individual based on their own journey, one that touches all of us and at some point in time in our lives, right? Well, this is something that's we're going to be experiencing, whether it's a loss from a loved one, a relationship, a job, or even, way of life. Grieving is a natural response to loss. In this video, we're going to dive into what that looks like, how it affects us, and even, how we can begin to heal, which is essential. We want to be able to heal so we're able to go out there, have, for instance, for my grandmother, I can shine through her, and do what I got to do and, keep things going, Instead of living in, darkness, being stagnant, feeling stuck and feeling broken, right? This is something that we want to be able to take in consideration, by basically doing this personal development work, taking our mental health serious, and like I said, navigating through tough times in regards to grief and loss. Key point is going to be, let's start off with the definition. So grief is emotional response to loss, encompassing a range of feelings, including sadness, anger, guilt, and even relief. Another key point is going to be some misconceptions, such as grief is linear. There's no right way to grieve, right? So there's different experiences that we experience, culture, and the way that we go about different circumstances and how we handle things is going to be obviously different. There's no right or wrong way about doing things. Excuse me, I want to say wrong because, we can improve, right? But there's no right way to grieve, right? Pulling back to that. But let's move on to, different types of, grief and loss, right? So we have death, we have divorce, we have job loss, we have illness, and we have identity shifts, right? So there's very different types of loss in regards to, like I said, our introduction of grief and loss. So we have some insightful research according to the American Psychological Association in 2022. Understanding grief as a normal and necessary emotional process helps individuals navigate it healthierly and with greater self-compassion. So this is serious because, having that information, having this insight, having that supportive, information that's going to help you able to navigate through these difficult moments are going to be able to, make you feel more at ease, and give you more healthier outcomes, with greater satisfaction and self-compassion than you not knowing this information. You just kind of navigating on your own and, being in isolation, which is going to give you not the best outcomes. So I want to take this video into consideration because, you know, this is something that we're going to be experiencing in various points of our lives. You know, life is not Candyland. We're going to have our ups, we're going to have our downs, but nothing, let's just be real, nothing's promised, nothing's guaranteed. The person that's with you today may not be there tomorrow. You know what I mean? Even our lives, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So we gotta really just be able to take in consideration of our blessings, live life, be present, you know what I mean? Try to flow with life, try not to allow stress and these different implications come into your world and mess your things up, right? But overall, in regards to grief and loss, this is gonna be something that we're all gonna be experiencing at some point in time. So let's just keep, you know, moving on into our next segment. So our next segment, we're gonna be talking about the 5 flexible stages of grief, right? So this was developed by a psychiatrist named Elizabeth. I don't want to get the, the last name wrong, but Kubler-Ross, which introduced the 5 stages of grief that helped us recognize the varied emotional experiences that come with loss, right? So it's important for us to know, but not everybody's experiences align in the same way, in this or even order, but it's overall just to have this information is essential, right? So a key point in regards to our 5 stages, we'll start off with denial, right? So denial, shock or disbelief, the mind, you know, in regards to the way that the mind works, softening the blow in regards to denial. Next is going to be anger, which is a natural reaction to pain and loss, that frustration, that emotion that is being, The next is going to be bargaining, right? So trying to regain control or seek meaning. So what if, you know, just really trying to question what's going on or, you know, what the outcome may be. Next is going to be depression. So deep sorrow and reflection, right? So this is putting you into, like I said, that isolation. You're having this strong emotion, which is keeping you, you know, in deep sorrow. Next is going to be acceptance, right? So finding a way to live with the loss, not necessarily feeling okay with it, but, you know, you're accepting it. These are the terms, and you're trying to really, you know, marinate what's really going on right now. In regards to some research insights from a 2021 study in regards to the Journal of Bereavement Studies, found that while the 5 stages model is helpful for identifying grieving patterns, individuals often revisit stages multiple times or skip, you know, some altogether, right? So like I said, there's different stages in regards to how you may be experiencing it based off whatever the circumstances is. These all happen to be the 5 stages, but like I said, some people may be in alignment to the way the order is, or maybe in different orders, or some of them may not even be applicable. But in regards, these are the 5 stages that help us recognize the emotions of experiencing when it comes to loss. Moving on to our next segment, we're going to be talking about how grief manifests emotionally and physically, right? So how does grief affect us, how we feel, and how does it affect us, you know, in our body, right? So let's dive into this, right? So grief affects not only our emotions, but also how our bodies and our behavior. Recognizing these signs can help us validate our experience and seek support when needed. It's very important for us to be, you know, in tune with ourself, our emotions, because it definitely does affect ourselves in addition to the people that are around us, right? I'm not sure if you guys heard this word, but what's up? It's called projecting, right? So sometimes when we got things going on, we're going through a lot, we may not realize it because our mind is stuck in a spiral where we got a cloud, or rain is on us, whatever. We're just in our own world. But these emotions or things that we're feeling could be projected on someone else that's affecting someone else negatively, right? So we need to be able to recognize, you know, and be more in tune with how we're feeling, and regulating our emotions is essential. However, let's just proceed in regards to moving on to, like I said, our segment, to be able to, like I said, have some more insights into how, you know, grief manifests emotionally and physically. Key point number 1 is going to be emotional symptoms. So sadness, anger, guilt, numbness, anxiety. You're going to be able to identify, like I said, your emotions, what symptoms you're feeling. If you're feeling inadequate and things are affecting you, you want to be able to reach out to that support. But moving on to another key point is going to be physical symptoms. You may be feeling exhaustion, sleep disturbances, headaches, aches, you know, immune suppression. Another key point is going to be behavioral changes. So social withdrawal, like I said, pulling yourself into isolation, difficulty concentrating, changes in appetite, right? So, you know, as we all know, when it comes to, you know, just identifying the before and after. Before the situation, you may be more fluid in your life, eating well, being more proactive, socializing with friends, riding your bike, doing those things, you know what I mean? But when something traumatic or experience happens in your life that is unsettling, things definitely will change. You may not feel the same, right? And as we just broke down, when it comes to some of these emotional symptoms, like we said, the anger, sadness, guilt, numbness, anxiety, exhaustion, sleep disturbances, I can't even sleep, I can't even, you know what I mean? So different things are affecting the way that your body is operating or able to cope. We really want to be able to recognize these things, write these things down, and like I said, have more, just be more intuitive in regards to how you're feeling, what's going on internally and externally, right? And seeking that proper support. When it comes to research insight from the National Institute of Mental Health in 2023, notes that physical symptoms of grief are commonly and should be acknowledged as a part of the healing process. So as we're undergoing these things, like I said, the body's changing, the mind's changing, and we're navigating. We really want to be, like I said, intuitive, writing these things down and recognizing what's going on. Next segment I want to bring into consideration is going to be coping strategies for healing. While there's no fix in regards to grieving, there's always a way to cope and move through, you know, the situation with compassion. Here are some tools I want to be able to dive into to help you and someone that you love to be able to, you know, have a coping strategy to balance the situation out if possible, right? So key point number one we're going to talk about is routine and self-care. I always emphasize for this because you really want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, right? So eating, sleeping, and staying physically active is really important as a coping strategy. Next key point is going to be creative expression, so utilizing art, writing, music, or even different outlets for processing your emotions. And let me take this out real quick. I did it this morning. Don't play. I always emphasize, like I said, journaling, writing down what's going on, and when you're consistent, you're going to be able to see that progress. So that is an outlet where you're able to vent, get those emotions out, and really understand what's going on with yourself, behaviors, emotions, etc. Right? Moving on is going to be rituals and remembrance, right? So honoring the person or chapter lost through traditions or keepsakes, right? So really just honoring the person, you know, praying is going to be able to, you know, help you out throughout the process as well. And then, you know, another thing is going to be support systems, right? So taking and talking to family, friends, and therapists could be able to help you, you know, in the situation as a, you know, support system. You really want to be able to have that in consideration because it's going to be able to help you out in tough times and even the isolation as well. When it comes to some research insight from a 2022 meta-analysis in health psychology review, found that individuals who engage in meaningful, you know, making activities and maintaining social support report significantly lower levels of prolonged grief symptoms, right? So when you're able to, you know, take care of yourself, put yourself first, be present, write things down, be more in tune with your emotions, your thoughts, right? And then have that social support as well, is going to be able to help you, you know, navigate and have significantly lower levels of prolonged grief, so you're able to heal thoroughly, right? Moving on to our next segment is going to be when to seek professional help. I want us to take in consideration, no one knows you like anybody else out there, so it's really important for you to advocate for yourself when things don't feel right, when you really feel the symptoms and different things that we already previously discussed, you're not at ease. We want you to really make sure that you're seeking professional help, right? And sometimes we may feel as if that we got it on our own, or we'll figure it out, or we can do this, we'll do that. We got to realize we're not professionals. It's professionals that spent years, spent time to really get the information to be able to share with us and help us and get us the recovery that we need, right? And we may not have all the tools and the information that we need. So self-medicating or whatever it may be, we got to really take in consideration that we ain't the professionals, we ain't the doctor, right? But we need to get in tune with the people that have the treatment plans, the professionals, to be able to give us the recovery and proper treatment plans that we may need for us, right? So tapping in with the professional is going to be able to help us get the recovery that we need, right? So I really want us to take that into consideration, because sometimes grief can feel like it's heavy, you know what I mean? You may carry it alone, you may be in that isolation, and if you're experiencing this persistent, you know, sadness, hopelessness or even thoughts of self-harm, it's important for us to take in consideration to reach out for that help, right? The key point I want to bring into consideration is that prolonged grief disorder, right? So when intense grief continues beyond a year and impairs daily life, we got to put that hand up and advocate and, seek that help, professional help. Next key point is going to be, signs you may need help, right? So isolation, as we mentioned before, substance use, right? And inability to function. Like I said, it's impairing, our daily functioning, the way that we perform, and like, we got to survive, So seeking that professional help. Another key point is going to be options for support, right? So we have therapists, we have grief counselors, we have online communities, and we have crisis lines that are going to be here to help us navigate in difficulty, right? And once again, grief counselors that are catered to deal with these circumstances, so we're able to get the proper support. When it comes to research insights, according to the American Psychiatric Association, therapy significantly reduces symptoms of complicated grief, with cognitive behavioral approaches, working with the mind being particularly effective, right? So when we're doing therapy, we have professionals helping us out. Specifically, like I mentioned before, is grief counselors in this situation is really going to be helping us realign our thoughts, our mind, and helping us heal effectively with, cognitive behavioral approaches, really understanding the mind, our behaviors, and our thinking, and really understanding those patterns, right? So I really wanted to highlight that because in order for us to get better, we got to be around the right people that have the right information, that can give us the right treatment plans to get us where we need to be, right? And nobody's perfect. I'm not saying no therapist is perfect, but there's people out there that are going to be out there to help you get better, that want to see you win, that want to see you improve, that want to see you get stronger, right? And by you getting yourself around them and making that personalized investment, it's only going to help benefit you down the long haul. However, let's dive into our next segment in regards to finding meaning and moving forward. Life is life. We got to be able to move forward, but we're going to be encountering certain things, and it's important for us to find meaning and move forward, right? So grieving doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry the memory of what you have lost in ways that you can honor it in your love and your life as well. And in time, many people find strength and purpose and even joy again, right? So there's many ways to move on, just because something happens in our life doesn't mean we have to stop there. Darkness doesn't have to take over, but really it's all about the mindset, right? And shifting it to that positive mindset. But moving forward in regards to our key points, I want to be able to take in consideration of meaning making, right? So creating a legacy, engaging in service, or reframing the experience, right? Next is going to be growth through grief, right? So discovering resilience, deepening empathy with new priorities as well. So these are different things that you can do as well in regards to, finding meaning and moving forward. The next key point is going to be hope and healing, right? So grief softens over time. Healing looks different for everyone, right? So let's take into consideration that as we're moving forward, there's different ways that we're able to, find meaning and move forward. However, it looks different for everybody. We got to take in consideration. We all have different circumstances, etc. But whatever works for you, works for you. Once again, like I said, seek proper support when needed and when necessary. When it comes to research insights from a 2023 study regarding the Journal of Positive Psychology, found that individuals who engage in reflective practices and community involvement report a greater sense of meaning in post-loss growth, right? So get yourself active, get yourself interactive with people, You don't want to find yourself in isolation, stuck, thinking about the same thing in that gloomy type of feeling. You got to get yourself, break free from that by doing things proactive, productive, things of your interest, getting around other people, getting your mind off of that, right? And also at the same time too, like I said, working on positive psychology in regards to your mindset and trying to channel into a sense of growth, a sense of meaning, a sense of productivity, right? And really, like I said, look at memories that are going to put you into that joyfulness, right?
Yeah.
Moving on, to our next segment, just kind of wrapping up things, is I really want to take consideration that you're not alone in regards to your grieving. Grief is one of the most human experiences that we share, and while it's we maybe feel isolating, you're not alone. With time, with support, with compassion, you'll find yourself, you'll feel yourself, and with others, healing is possible, right? So I want to take consideration once again, find the support, professional help when needed. And when it comes to this process, it is difficult, but we can get through it by the steps that we discussed today. However, if you found this video beneficial, throw a thumbs up, comment if necessary. If you find that you want to honor somebody or want to share about someone, drop it in the comment area. However, for more intentional content, stay tuned into Thriving Talks. Take it easy.